Our next guest has spent much of the last 9 years building and promoting the city of Hartford. He now wants to do the same state and countrywide as the next governor of Connecticut. Oz Griebel is most recently known as the CEO of the Metro Hartford Alliance, a post he's now on leave from. He's also a former CEO of Bank Boston and a former teacher at Worcester Academy. Griebel is a Republican and he lives in Simsbury. Oz, thanks for joining us here on The Real Story. Now, I know you best as the former CEO of the Metro Hartford Alliance. And what successes would you point to? Because some people might say, you know, they don't really see Hartford as a thriving metropolis. But what good work do you think you did?
Well, I think, first of all, the Alliance serves 35 towns here in the north central part of the state. So our job, as we get paid by those 35 municipalities and our private sector investors, is to make sure that this region competes, and that's the operative word, for jobs, capital, and talent. So when you talk about successes, I think you have to look at the entire region. I'll just rattle off a couple. The Walgreens distribution center out by the airport, significant, 500-plus jobs that came in as a result of that. The fact that we were able successfully to recruit transatlantic service out of Bradley and working with DOT and with Karen Jane and Scott Franz at that time. That's I think, a major success. It needs to come back again. Within the city, things like putting the Business Improvement District in place, I think, is a major success. The fact that you've got a number of, with the convention center and the hotels now in town, making Hartford more of a destination has been, I think, a success. Not that the Alliance claims credit for all of that by any stretch of the imagination, but working together, we've, I think, done a lot of great things over the last decade.
So how are you able to do that? Because I know you have been critical of the state as being, and I'll just rather use anti-business. I mean, how were you able to achieve those things with some of the regulations or perhaps the mannerisms here in the state that haven't been promoting business?
Well, a lot of it's hard work. And I've said in my campaign that I think the governor of this state has to be the chief economic development officer, the chief business development officer of the state. And a lot of what we've done at the Alliance over the last 9 years is go out and market the state, work with businesses to get by impediments to their growth or to their relocation, and fight a battle up at the Capitol on those on a regular basis, engaging the business, the private sector, the investors of ours, as well as working with other chambers in the state to help defeat legislation that we think is truly detrimental to growth in the state. So it's a combination of all those things.
Such as what's
the paid sick leave bills that are there. I mean, the deficit that we're in the budget that we know causes concern. I think one of the things that I think people have to understand in the state, when businesses make decisions, businesses of all sizes, from the UTCs and the Pfizers of the world to someone who's just maybe has a 5 or 6 person shop, is they look at the attitude that's in the state. And that attitude can be manifested in bills, it can be manifested in taxes, it can be manifested in cost of doing business. It can be manifested in the delay in terms of getting something approved. And it's that overall structure that has to be changed in the state of Connecticut.
So what would be, for example, one of the first things that you would change to make building businesses here easier?
Well, what I've said all along, I really do believe that the job of the governor is to be the chief marketing. I said chief economic development officer, the chief marketing officer. I think one of the things that business wants to know is appreciated. I think there's an attitude sometimes that business has been here forever. Pick, again, your largest companies to your smallest companies. They're here forever and they're taken for granted. I've said in the campaign that if the state of Connecticut doesn't have a hungry governor, there are 49 others out there who have hungry governors and are prepared to eat our lunch. Governors come into the state, they send surrogates here, they appear at trade shows. You have to tell the private sector that they're needed and wanted here.
What do you think about, I mean, you mentioned the budget, and a lot of times lawmakers turn to businesses for help raising money for the budget. What sorts of things would you do to trim and find savings versus perhaps raising revenue through more taxes?
I think the two things that we've used as illustrations, I think we have to look at appropriate consolidations of entities, eliminations of certain programs. The example I've used is to illustrate my thinking is, do we need a separate University of Connecticut administrative function and a separate CSU system? Well, there are opportunities there to consolidate certain things that could be done where, if not lowering the tax burden, at least lower the cost of tuition or at least reduce the increase in the escalation of tuition. The other thing we have to look at is working with state employees. We know we can't afford the size of state government that we have, and we can't afford the unfunded liabilities that are out there. So I think one of the things I've talked about is we have to move, I think, very quickly and working together with all the right people to move our state employees from a defined benefit situation to defined contributions to get at at some of these structural deficits that are out there.
Now let's talk about raising money. Something that always has come up several times is Sunday sales. What do you think about Sunday sales? It always comes up. It gets defeated. I don't know.
Oh, we're talking about the liquor sales?
Liquor sales, Sunday liquor sales.
To me, it's an issue of customer convenience, really. What little I've looked at, I don't know so much as this is a revenue generator so much as it is that there are other things you can do on Sunday. What's the difference on that in terms of your ability to buy liquor on Sunday? I don't support it. I don't think there's significant revenue there. But in terms of customer convenience or consumer convenience, I think it's something that certainly is something that should be looked at. When you talk about the revenue side, I'll just say make 2 points quickly here for you. One, we have to stay focused on spending. Everybody wants to jump to the revenue side, raise taxes and what have you. We do have to keep focused on the spending side. I also want to make it clear that I think the state has to invest in infrastructure that's critical to the private sector. Transportation being, I think, among the top items that whether it's making sure our roads and bridges are fully maintained, improving mass transit. And I think we have to, along those lines, we have to restore about $250 million that we took out of the state transportation fund in 1998 to do two things. One, to improve our infrastructure. Secondly, to put people back to work. Right. In the building trades, we're probably looking at 25 to 30% unemployment. And it's important that those people have an opportunity to get back to work while we're still improving our infrastructure.
You talked about transportation. What do you think about tolls?
I'll just say what I've said from the outset on this. I served on the Transportation Strategy Board. I think the important thing is getting money into the system. Tolls are going to take a long time to get online if and when they ever come. I don't think you take anything off the board, though, Lori. I think those things have to be looked at over the longer term to make sure that we've got the means to have a vibrant transportation infrastructure.
And this was a question that came up at a panel that I recently moderated with you on it. Yep. And it was about when the GOP wins the governor's race, oftentimes you lose seats in the General Assembly. Yep. How would you help out in terms of linking the Republicans' campaigns to your own?
Well, I think it's critical that the head of the ticket has to be the chief marketer for the entire ticket. So working closely with all the candidates for state senate and all the candidates for the House, I'd work very closely with them, making sure that we're sending a strong message about growth, returning jobs, being aggressive about supporting the private sector, and about controlling spending. And I think you have to move immediately after that to make sure you're also focused on the 2012 elections as well, to make sure that you sustain the gains that we get in 2010.
You have a lot of company in this race. Why'd you get in with so many people running now?
For all the reasons I've just talked about with you. I believe that the opportunities in this state have shrunk dramatically for people of all ages. I do believe that the primary reason for that is because of this anti-business attitude that is out there. And I believe I've demonstrated in the 17 years I've been here, both at the bank and with the Alliance, that I have the skill set, the experiences, the ability to bring people together to identify opportunities and to solve issues. So that's the reason I jumped in.
Interesting. Thanks for spending time with us, and I'm sure we're going to talk to you a lot more over the next couple months. Thanks a lot, Oz.
You're very welcome, Laura.
Oz Griebel, of course, is a Republican running for governor. You'll be seeing much more of him in the months to come as the race really begins to heat up. But ahead, why builders say lawmakers need to get some hard hats on and get to work making changes.